On today's episode of Collider Movie Talk, we've got some Terminator edit room battles. The Bee Gees got some biopic fever. And we got hot scoops over here. All of that on a new live Collider Movie Talk for this beautiful Friday morning. Hey everyone, I'm your host today on Movie Talk. Perry Numeroff is out in New York getting ready to run the New York City Marathon. Give her some love there on social media. She's also got a campaign there that she's doing for charity for her run. So go find that link on her bio and give her some love on that direction as well. But today, we got to handle some Collider Movie Talk business. And I'm extremely excited to welcome the two gentlemen that are going to join me on the panel today. That's Variety's Justin Kroll. That's right, Variety's Justin Kroll and our own Jeff Sneider. We pulled them off the scoop speed long enough for them to sit down with us and talk about some topics here on Movie Talk. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but first, let's jump into the call sheet. All right, in an interview with Cinema Blend, Terminator Dark Fate executive producer and godfather of all things Terminator, James Cameron, said that the sequel was forged after many battles with Tim Miller over the film. Cameron was recently asked if there were disagreements during Dark Fate's editing process, and he stated, "I would say many, and the blood is still being scrubbed off the walls from those creative battles." Never one at a loss for words, that Cameron. This is a film that was forged in fire, so yeah, but that's the creative process, right? We'll have the full quote and more to discuss on this one later in the show, so stay tuned for that. All right, let's move it on. According to numerous early box office reports, Disney's Frozen 2 is projected to earn over $100 million when it launches on November 22nd. A triple-digit debut for Frozen 2 would shatter the 67.4 million opening weekend numbers of the 2013 animated original film, which also launched over Thanksgiving. Frozen ended its theatrical run with a massive $1.3 billion in worldwide ticket sales. Still the biggest haul ever for an animated title. So the sequel will have its hands full trying to match that, even if it debuts to record-setting numbers. We'll see if fans don't let go of that one. All right, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has launched an expanded version of its streaming room platform for members to watch Oscar contenders for this year's voting. The expansion now includes Best Picture hopefuls on the at-home service. Additionally, for the first time, all Academy members can vote on the Best International Feature Film Award that was formerly known as the Foreign Language Film once a committee narrows the field down to 10 hopefuls. In addition to streaming, the shortlist will still screen theatrically for voters in New York and LA. Now, as reported by Deadline, Paramount Pictures and producer Graham King are producing a biopic about the Bee Gees, the iconic disco pop trio formed by Australian brothers Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb. The group had massive hits in the 1970s like Staying Alive and More Than a Woman, and underscored one of the most acclaimed films of that era, Saturday Night Fever, which starred John Travolta. No word yet on whether Jimmy Fallon or Justin Timberlake will be auditioning for any of those roles, and shout out to you if you got that reference. All right, it's officially official. Jeffrey Wright is your new Commissioner Gordon. Word first broke in September that the Emmy and Tony Award-winning actor would fill the key role in writer-director Matt Reeves' highly anticipated reboot, The Batman, joining Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman and Paul Dano as the Riddler. Yesterday, Reeves confirmed Wright's casting with a tweet that simply said, "Gordon." Well, now, let the Batgirl fan casting begin. All right, we're going to get into the Terminator Dark Fate story in just a second, but first, let's meet our panelists. You know that guy over there, Jeff Sneider. He likes to dress in weird costumes for Halloween. Pulls on The Crow. Did you watch The Crow the other night?
I sure did.
Were you alone in this thing, or did you have people come over?
Stephanie was with me, but she fell asleep about a half an hour in.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
She did not want to. Light it up! Light it up! But the gentleman we do want to introduce, it's his first time on the show, a guy whose stuff I've read, and probably you've read numerous times over the years. That is Variety's Justin Kroll. How are you, man?
Good, man. Glad to be on.
That's right.
I thought I was on Jeff's podcast until I walked in and you're like, we're doing movie talk instead. I'm like, all right, cool.
Boom.
Whatever
It's
works.
the big show.
Whatever works. Let's do it live.
When you're breaking
Let's do it live.
Let's do it live. We're going live. We're doing it. And we're going to start with that Terminator Dark Fate story. You guys, I want to read the full quote. We teased the quote at the beginning of the call sheet here. Let me read James Cameron's quote talking about how the final cut came to be with Tim Miller, and they asked if they had any battles in the editing bay or during the process of making the film. He said, "I would say many, and the blood is still being scrubbed off the walls from those creative battles. This is a film that was forged in fire. Fire! So yeah, but that's the creative process, right? I mean, my work with Robert on Alita was very different. Robert loved the script, loved everything, said, I just want to make this movie. I want to make the movie the way you see it. I was like, no, you got to make it your movie. I had the reverse experience with Tim, which is Tim wanted to make it his movie. And I'm like, yeah, but I kind of know a little bit about this world. So I had the matter and the antimatter version of that producerial experience. All right, go to you, Just first. Do these quotes surprise you from Cameron? And does this make you feel like Tim Miller knew exactly how to play this thing? Because I know neither of you have seen the movie yet. I can tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
So we did a review, Rocha.
I never know with you. But what do you think of these comments? And do you think like this is how you need to work with Cameron?
I don't think it's just Cameron. I think that's part of the process. Like this happens a lot on times. Now, in Tim Miller's, with Ryan Reynolds, I think that
the
probably
Deadpool
the Deadpool stuff, like because he was like eventually let go from the project, that comes back when Cameron brings it, like, oh, is this guy competitive? I think in both cases, Ryan and James, I mean, Ryan, from what I hear, can be just as protective of certain things as James Cameron. So it's not like a personality situation. I just think in Hollywood, that's what you need. And I think we'll talk about it later too with Star Wars. Like it's a good thing to have these fights and stuff like that. It leads to quality products because it sounds like everyone's loving Terminator. So I think this happens more often than not. And for once James was being really honest about it, which I actually appreciate.
Well, James is never not honest. That's for damn sure. No matter what he's, no matter how much it gets him in trouble. He reminds me a lot of Jeff Sneider. He says whatever he feels, and if it gets him in trouble, it gets him in trouble.
That's the greatest compliment I've ever heard. James Cameron reminds me of Jeff Sneider. Okay, I'll take it.
But let me give Tim Miller a little defense here. He, in an interview with the Screen Rant as well, talking about the Terminator thing, how he approached it, said, you feel like if there's a railroad, the track was already laid there, so it just happens to stop out in the middle of nowhere. And I just started laying more track because Jim kind of created this, set up the story, set up these characters, and I'm just sort of telling the next chapter of it. So it's deferential without being submissive. And I feel like from what James was saying about Robert Rodriguez when he was mentioning the Alita experience, Robert Rodriguez was just so like, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And it seems like Tim's like, no, we're going to get this right.
I also think like Alita and Terminator are different situations. Like Terminator is his baby.
Yeah.
Like he has been, when he left Terminator, like when he didn't do Terminator 3, he crapped on all the other Terminators he did not like. It's like the thing that launched his career. Alita, at the end of the day, is still something like he's just not as protective of it. That's going to lead to why it is. I don't think really like I'm sure there was still some fights, but I'm just sure James was going to let them go. Where in this one, he was finally back involved in this world, and he wanted to make sure like his input was involved.
I think Rodriguez was in a different position than Tim Miller too, where it was like he kind of needed James Cameron in a movie like Alita, whereas Tim Miller probably felt like he's the king of the world after Deadpool, and like he. Terminator franchise is lucky to have me here. I think they're just two headstrong guys, very like macho, masculine guys. But I think that the pairing, whatever happened with there being blood on the walls and creative battles, I don't see that in the finished product. I think that their two styles go together pretty well.
And that's the thing is like if there was a problem, we would have probably seen it on the screen. And from what it sounds like, the battles led to a quality product.
Well, all of us are sports fans, and we know sometimes the teams don't necessarily have to get along to create great championship teams. Certainly Kobe and Shaq rarely got along. Near the end, they still won 3 championships together.
Yeah, exactly.
The Yankees in the 70s hated each other.
You can get the hate, like you can have that in a locker room. It's like if it ends up affecting on the court, like on the screen, that's where the problem is. Like everybody remembers Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels yelling on the sideline. They still won 34-10 that day or something like that. So it's if it doesn't affect what's actually happening in front of us, then those things are going to happen, and you need it sometimes.
Do you think this is a dangerous thing to come out for Tim Miller though? Because I mean, there were rumors that he had a lot of battles with Ryan Reynolds, which is why they didn't want it from Deadpool 2, but which I would argue worked made the film deficient to the first one. And so you look at this, he created a really good Terminator film. Do you think that this
when
is
you
how
say
people need to
create problems or whatever, like I think that the town knows who Tim Miller is at this point. I think you can just kind of tell who Tim Miller is within 5 minutes of meeting him.
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting a Star Wars movie anytime soon. Let's say that much.
But
not under this regime.
I think Tim Miller is a little bit like Fincher in the sense that like I don't see him making a movie that's not R-rated.
Yeah,
like Tim, he just has that that sort of aggressive mentality.
I like this about him, though. I do. I think he knows he knows what works. He's very strong about what he thinks will make a good movie. And now, recently, 2 out of 2, you can say he was right. And so, if you're going to jumpstart a franchise, or you're going to bring this guy in, you got to know what you're dealing with. And maybe he likes the battles. He needs the battles. Another sports reference: McEnroe wasn't good until he got into some kind of feeling like he was him against the world kind of vibe, and he created good work. So that's the thing and there's a lot of artists in Hollywood through the decades that have either created fights or felt the need to get into fights. Elia Kazan was another one with a lot of his classic films would get into battles with the studios about his movies, and it produced great stuff on the screen. So I don't know. I don't take anything too much away from this other than James Cameron being dramatic about blood on the walls and all that kind of jazz.
I also think like James was trying to give a great quote, and he did. So like that, I think he might be overcompensating a little bit, but like again, from when I covered that film and all that stuff, like there was never rumors of like massive blowouts on set or something like that where like they had to shut down production. It's just like I think James is going a little bit overboard here on that part, and but I also think like these fights happen a lot more than people would think.
Yeah. What's the most surprising fight or battles that you've heard about on films? Was there one you guys can mention? Like surprising, like between the director and
not surprising. Like
I'm
sure there was like a Fincher thing I heard about or something like that. But like,
is he notoriously difficult to work with, Fincher?
I know there's a pushback with studio execs, like how but like they know they're getting that. He's been doing it long enough where it's like I heard some Dragon Tattoo stuff, but again, that product turned out really well. So
he doesn't like authority. He rebels against authority.
Yeah, like I've never heard let's put it this way, I've never heard like Kevin Feige getting in a fight with any of his directors. Like that's his personality. So
right, fair enough. All right, well we'll keep tabs on this and we'll see what it leads to in terms of the box office for this film. It's being predicted at a good range, not a huge range, but we'll see if it surprises people as it goes along. And sometimes a little friction is good. A little friction is good. Cause a little fire on the screen. All right, let's move on to a completely different topic, and that's the Bee Gees. As I mentioned here at the top of the call sheet, there is a film being coming here, being produced by the producer from Bohemian Rhapsody. He's bringing this thing, Graham King, to life with Paramount Pictures. Now, you may not think this, you may think, oh, this is like, it's the disco stuff or soft rock, Bee Gees, but there was a lot of drama between these brothers. I've been a fan of the Bee Gees since I was a child, growing up during that time when they were huge in the 70s and 80s, and knowing all the stuff like Barry, Robin, and Maurice got into massive battles with each other. Obviously, they all accused Barry of showboating and big timing him all the time, and Robin and Maurice, and there were rumors that Robin or Maurice didn't want Barry to even come at the end when they were dying, because he's the last one left, is Barry Gibb. Andy Gibb also passed away at a young age from depression and addiction to drugs. So there's a lot here to explore, and I wonder if it's rife and what period they're going to explore. What do you know about the Bee Gees, Jeff Sneider?
Very little, honestly. I don't know much. I know Saturday Night Fever.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a sequel called Staying Alive. I don't know if you remember, from the 80s.
Yeah. I was a child then.
But no, I mean, these guys out of Australia, small town in Australia, and they found a way to become worldwide phenomenon. And through decades, I mean, they were recording in the 60s, and it wasn't until, the 2000s that they finally stopped doing stuff. So they have a legacy here with a lot of people that cross the generation.
I don't see this becoming the next Bohemian Rhapsody, let alone the next Rocket Man. Disco's dead.
I don't know if this gets into production.
Really?
I really don't. I unless a director who is as in love with the Bee Gees as you are, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of us
would jump this. It's I think it's not if Rocket Man taught us anything, it's just Bohemian Rhapsody does all that money and wins Oscars and all this stuff. Everybody thinks then every musical biopic is a great idea. You have the Aretha Franklin thing, and then Rocket Man, and there's a bunch of other ones, Spinning Gold. It's just
right, the Neil Bogart one.
Sometimes something hits, but if Rocket Man taught us anything, it's sometimes films just. I think that with that film, he had maybe 200 million, maybe I think less than 300, not even close to Bohemian Rhapsody money. And the Bee Gees to me has even less of a following. I can't what?
But then I look at something
people in theaters. Yes.
Okay.
if Netflix did this, but if Paramount is expecting like what's crazy is Paramount just saw what happened with Rocket Man,
right.
where it's just not always a slam dunk. It's like I think at the very least they're gonna have to like take their time in finding the right director. Like then there's the cast. It's just I don't know, man. Like it's case by case, and like in the case of Bohemian, they struck gold. And I just don't know if that's going to be the same type of thing. The other interesting thing was it wasn't just Graham King. Stacey Sneider is involved with this as well.
Right, with her sister label, yeah.
And she's back with Jim G, who's at Paramount, and they worked briefly at the Fox thing. And then a lot of interesting notes on this one that like add in there. But like that to me, that was more interesting than this actual film. I really don't know. Like I feel they really need to find like the right piece of talent for this to work, because I just don't think there is much people like you.
Do people want to see a biopic, or do people just want to sort of revel in the songs and almost do like a Mamma Mia style thing, which uses the music of ABBA? Or Last Christmas is going to start screening soon. That's a story based on the music of George Michael.
This is a biopic. This has to be to me there's
because it's about the brothers.
Universal's doing like a Prince movie where it's Mamma Mia, where they use the music of Prince to tell a story that has nothing to do with his life story.
Right.
And that the estate was very, very cautious about doing that. But Prince has like a catalog that we all know and like a huge following. Like the Bee Gees, to me, I just don't know if you can get like people under the age of 40 to go see it. In my mind,
wow, it's a strong statement. Yeah, but their albums still sell. Their records still sell. I'm sorry, their CDs, all their music still sells. They're still one of the highest grossing, highest selling artists going around today. So it must transcend. Remember, they wrote. And Barry Gibb wrote so many songs. Like the Grease soundtrack is that song is Barry Gibb's as well. But I think you guys make excellent points. This idea of, are they going to the well too often? Is this the one to go to?
Yeah, you water it down. Well, again, they're not like full. Like this film probably isn't happening anytime soon because they still need like.
Right.
Do they have a script yet, or is it just they have? The rights?
It's just just the rights, and they're gonna
listen. Like here's one. Like Leonard Bernstein, I would never think is like something that people are high on. But if you have Bradley Cooper directing and starring in it, and Spielberg and Scorsese producing it, that film's gonna make the theaters and probably make some money because of the talent around it. If you can get like that type of people involved with this, and not just Graham King and Stacey Sneider and her production team, then we can go somewhere. But until that really happens, like. I am weary about just jumping into these.
I would push back a little bit and look. Who in the 1980s was asking for an Amadeus movie, and that thing won a crap ton of Oscars and made a crap ton of money.
Maybe the Bee Gees movie will win a ton of Oscars.
I'm just saying, no one was asking for a classical music.
But that's
biopic.
the point, though, is who was involved with that? Is Milos Forman.
Milos Forman.
Like if you
get a good director.
But that's the thing. Is you need a director. Like even like. I like Dexter Fletcher, but like Dexter Fletcher isn't Steven Spielberg. It's just like you are going to need that type of person to like if Chris Nolan, which would be a wild.
The Chris Nolan.
If Chris Nolan was a Bee Gees guy and he jumped on this as his first
coming soon to the rumor mill.
That's a joke. That's a joke. Don't aggregate that and make that.
Justin Kroll says Christopher Nolan.
No.
Biopic.
But what time is it?
9:17.
We got some breaking news.
What?
Let me bring up my Justin Kroll author page here, which is bookmarked.
I have to.
Do you want to break it
first.
now as we're talking?
There it is. It's there. Go for it, Kroll.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, let's
breaking news, courtesy of Justin Kroll.
Yeah.
Well, let's not have dead air. Somebody say
your
something.
story.
If you're breaking the story, break the story, Justin.
Channing Tatum has found his next movie. He's going to star in the soundtrack of Silence for Paramount. He's reteaming with his Dear John producers and writer Jamie Linden. They had been. The interesting thing about Channing right now is that Channing has been, he hasn't made a movie since Logan Lucky and Kingsman in 2017. Took some time off. It hasn't really been taking time off. He was trying to get his Gambit movie off the ground at Fox.
Right.
All the Fox Disney stuff probably kind of killed that. So in that time, he switched agencies. He went from UTA, his longtime agent, and got rid of his manager, and then went over CA. And in the last 6 months, I've heard his name a lot. He's been really anxious to get back in the studio, or not studio, like doing a movie. And studios are anxious to get back to him because this is the guy that did Magic Mike franchise, 21 Jump Street franchise. And this is an interesting one. It's you have the log line in front of you?
Yeah, I got it right here. It's based on the true story from KQED, Soundtrack of Silence. It's about this couple, Matt and Nora Hayes, and their journey to preserve love. And this is what Justin wrote. Journey to preserve love in a world without
that was
sound.
signed off on.
So basically, it's about a guy who learns he's going to be going deaf.
Yeah.
And so he memorizes his favorite songs in order to preserve his most important memories, including how he fell in love with his girlfriend and future wife.
But this. Okay.
So do we want to see Channing Tatum playing a guy? So this is kind of like a drama. He's going to be losing his hearing.
Didn't we see this already when he did that film with Rachel McAdams where she's losing her memory?
Well, that's the thing. It's like going back to the well of like
That's
the
what it
John
feels
Sparks
like.
stuff. It's like
He needs a hit. He needs to get back out there.
The studios and him realize this is a genre where it's like the romantic dramas that he like kind of launched his career.
Yeah.
What was that called? The Rachel McAdams one. I'm blanking
something
on it.
Vow. Something
The
Vow.
Vow.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Vow, right?
But that was that came
Something
out.
Vow.
That
The
came
Vow.
out. That came out the same year as 21 Jump Street and Magic Mike, and it was part of his brand that people are really known for him. And I feel like it's a smart move to jump on this. It doesn't have a director right now, so I don't know if it's his next film. But like this is the type of like stuff that we've grown to know him for, that like puts asses in seats and gets him like that momentum.
I think Channing Tatum is actually a better actor than he gets credit for.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, John?
Have I seen what?
A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints.
I'm not someone who bashes Channing Tatum as an actor. I think he's a damn good actor.
Yeah, like I could actually see this. There is a Riz Ahmed movie coming out where he's a drummer who's losing his hearing, and that seems like it'll be like the
Which I heard was
edgier indie.
fantastic.
I've heard the sound design's incredible on that movie, but this seems like almost the studio version of that.
Yeah.
Type of story. You know?
Dear John was the other one he did with Amanda Seyfried
Yes.
that had that kind of vibe. I don't think
the John Sparks vibe, like that's
Nicholas
the thing.
Sparks.
Nicholas Sparks. Sorry.
Yeah, and I got no problem with him wanting to go back to this, I guess. But my thing is, where's his Bourne identity? This is where he needs to do. Is
He did that with White House Down, and it bombed.
Yeah, but so what? So you know, it doesn't mean you can't go back to the well.
I think when you haven't done something in a while, like the last movie he did was Logan Lucky, did not do well.
That's a good movie, though.
Like you have to still think it from a business standpoint. Like how do I get like in order to do those films you're talking about, I need the film that like did me right in the first place and like gets people knowing about like Channing's still around and all. I think sometimes people like talent in Hollywood gets so consumed by the art. Sometimes in order to do those types of like Brad Pitt, like in order to do Ad Astra, he has to do Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like he had like even though those like Once Upon a Time is still like has an artistic feel, there is still more like substance and like commercial appeal to it than an Ad Astra.
You have to listen to the audience, and his audience is a lot of a female audience, and this is the kind of thing that they want to see him in.
I think it's dangerous though at this stage in his career to slide into this thing, because I think he's still like obviously with Magic Mike and 21 Jump Street, he's shown that he can do these films that are firmly planted, tongue in cheek, but still damn good movies that you wouldn't normally think are that good. This feels like he's going back to the well that's safe, and I'd rather him try and take more chances because, as you said, Jeff, if he's a damn good actor, then go be a damn good actor. Go be in independent films. Go be in something else that kind of builds your brand. Now, if you're after the money, then that's a whole other ball game, right? Get into a Fast and Furious movie while you're at it. Why not? He could have taken the John Cena role, no problem, I bet.
To be clear, it's his first film since being gone for a while that he's been attached to. It still does not mean that is his next film. He's just adding. He's just at this point building his development slate for future films that are going to move forward.
Yeah.
Like for all we know, he has that Fast and Furious thing that could be up next anyways. He just hasn't committed to it quite yet. Or it's like, you sometimes have to like build a pipeline and set yourself up for the next couple of years and not just do like one-offs like Leo does.
Yeah,
but Leo can do that because he's one of 3 movie stars left.
You are right though, John. Like, where is his next big action-oriented hit? Where is his The Meg or whatever?
That was your choice of like where's the next?
Those are the kinds of movies I think Channing would end up
Gerard
leading.
Butler is making a living doing
I agree.
these action
Where's his
movies.
Den of Thieves?
Yeah, where his Den of Thieves, by the way, is fantastic. If you haven't seen that, don't dismiss it like his other ones that
Very
are fun,
rewatchable.
like Hunter Killer.
Yeah.
Those are fun things to take a chance on a Saturday afternoon. Den of Thieves is a damn good, gritty ass movie.
And that gets back to the brand thing. Like Channing knows his business and knows the Nicholas Sparks-esque type of tearjerkers play with ladies, and that's what they know him for. So if Gerard knows his business and Channing is knowing his as well, and that's what it takes sometimes. It's like Channing can do a Fox
you gotta be realistic,
but you still need to be realistic of what puts asses in seats and what people are going to see you for, and that in this case is this.
Well, this could be a more intense drama, probably, instead of a Nicholas Sparks movie. There's a possibility for that as well, maybe, right? Because the logline doesn't say it's going to be a romantic comedy. It says or a romantic film. It's more about like this guy struggling with this situation.
I mean, this could be like a Foxcatcher for all we know.
That's what I'm saying. It could be something like that.
Just because the Dear John writer is involved doesn't mean it's necessarily going to have that same like setup in a way.
Right, exactly. And that's the kind of things you get from Justin Kroll, breaking scoops and what have you, busting through the middle of the Bee Gees story to bust that scoop. We're going to talk about that more, a little bit about their job, him and Jeff Sneider, what they do, breaking scoops and what have you in this world. But let's get into some promos. First, let's talk about some programming coming up here on Collider. Hey everyone, John Rocha here, the host of Collider Mailbag. New episode drops every Saturday and Sunday in your face and in your ears, answering the questions from you fans about the world of entertainment, film, and television. Me and great guests from our sphere do the best to answer your questions from Twitter, from Instagram, and of course, email as well, every Saturday and Sunday.
What's up, Collider fans? Ryan Satin here from ProWrestlingSheet.com, where you can find the top stories throughout the week in the world of professional wrestling. If you're a wrestling fan like myself, then you'd be doing yourself a disservice by not checking out all the shows we do every week on YouTube.com/C/Wrestling Sheet. In particular, on Wednesdays, we've got a SmackDown recap show hosted by John Rocha and myself, where we pick apart and talk about every little thing that happened on the Blue Brand. So do yourself a favor and go subscribe at youtube.com/C/Wrestling Sheet.
Oh yeah, you caught me downloading some more Bee Gees music here for me to listen to later on, and maybe make a mixtape for these two fools to listen to. But let's move on.
Mixtape, that dates yourself right there.
Well, it is the Bee Gees, damn it. Anyway, we're going to talk about what these two gentlemen do for a living at their respective sites. Obviously, Jeff Sneider over at Collider, but Justin Kroll over at Variety. I want to go through begin with the Star Wars story as we have kind of an entry point into what Justin does over at Variety and how he goes about breaking scoops and what the process is like for our fans to kind of get an inside look into what you do. With this Benioff and Weiss story that happened with Star Wars, it was exclusive that you were breaking. What's the process in getting the source, getting the tip, getting the idea, breaking the scoop? Like, how do you go about doing something like this?
With this, honestly, this story is a little different because the story broke on Monday that they were leaving it. What I was writing about is more of like the background, like what really led to it.
Because this is an assignment, though, right? This is the editors saying, like, this is a huge Star Wars story. Justin, can we get like the inside story on what happened?
A little bit. I actually paid, like, I saw it and was like, I want to run into that. And I co-wrote with Brent Lang, and we had actually just worked on the streaming service stuff as well. And sometimes you just see they released a statement that we're busy with our Netflix deal, which they signed over the summer, which I learned like Netflix was like, we're not waiting 4 years to get our first Dave and Dan project. We want something sooner rather than later. Like, because if they're giving out money the way they are to like Ryan Murphy and Shonda and those pipelines are coming together, or development slates are coming together. Yeah. They certainly aren't going to wait for Star Wars to end. That said, you look at like if this happens once, you like and like the studio has like there's no issues. Like Kevin Feige and Edgar Wright had their odds, and Edgar left Ant-Man. But for the most part, Kevin really never has had to replace a director once he's put them on a film, or talent, or writer. With the Lucasfilm of it all, I just found it very fascinating that like they're constantly replacing people, whether it's Michael Arndt, years ago with Lawrence Kasdan, who hadn't been writing things, but he was just a safe bet. Or then you go Colin Trevorrow leaving, and then JJ replacing him. Famously, the Lord Miller being fired during production. Yeah. That I can name that like 3 times that I've heard that. Like, and when I mean fired during, like the first week, these guys were fired after month 2 or something of this. It was unheard of. It cost them so much money, and that's the thing is like the last Star Wars film we had was a bomb. Disappointment. I don't care if it made $400 million. Star Wars is a $1 billion check. It's the easiest thing. Like, even those bad prequels did that. Yet this film is having trouble right now. And to me, it was the people making the decisions, and we saw like that, like, the Kathleen Kennedy of it all, especially after the Kevin Feige producing thing comes out. When I talk to people, that the way they said it was, that to me spelled out like a succession plan in a way. Now they say they're standing by her, and we're like, and what and they believe what she's doing is right. But it still is like, the accountability a little bit. It's like, And again, I actually think out of all the things that have happened with Star Wars, this did have more to do with their scheduling in terms of the Netflix thing. But I also found it interesting why they even were like looking for the Netflix thing in the first place when they knew they'd have Star Wars on their plate for 4 or 5, 6 years maybe.
Right.
that's where this whole process came.
Well, how do you go about sourcing a story? Like, how do you developing sources, those kinds of things? That's what I mean. Like, what are the nuts and bolts of how you get to a story like this?
I mean, I've been just networking for years. Like that's the bottom line. It's like in this town, it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
And the more people that can, like, information is currency. So like the more people that, like, at the highest levels that are close to all these, when you can see the ins and outs, like it's not just like Kathleen Kennedy, but it's like exactly St. Lucasfilm. It's I'm not going to tell you who I talked for this, but like it's people around town, other execs at rival studios, agencies, managers, lawyers, like the list goes on and on of people that you just come across over these years and have that relationship, always talking with them. Like in this case, I saw that story and I wanted to chase it. In others, like I'd say 80 to 90, like this Channing Tatum thing came from just, I called a source about like random stuff, like what's going on with this, and this, and they happen to mention, I heard Channing closed his deal on this. So that's how I think I get a lot of stuff. It's like a majority of my day is just on the phone calling up people to try to get leads, and then you get those leads and you chase them.
And Jeff, a lot of that I've seen you do, having worked with you here at the show, or at Collider rather, and you will jump off in the middle of a conversation, so you got to take a call and do that as well. That's part of the networking game, right? Cultivate. But how do you go? Like, how do you come to this partnership with these people? Because they know why you're with them. They know why you're networking with them. What's the reasons why they would network with a person who works at Variety or Collider or a Hollywood Reporter when they know they might break a story that angers them or whatever? Is that just part of the deal and they understand that they have to do that with the press? I mean, then they'll complain about the press the next second.
Yeah, I think that if agents and managers and publicists and producers weren't talking to reporters, there would be no news. Like, people like to gossip in this town. That's half like the fun of it.
Yeah.
And as long as they're not jeopardizing a deal or threatening anybody or anything, I think that they don't mind telling a reporter from time to time what they're hearing around town.
It helps. It's like control, not necessarily controlling the narrative, but like giving their thing. Like if you go silent, I'm going to be talking to I'm still going to talk to other people.
The story's still there, so someone's going to tell it.
So if you want to be able to the way I always say is like, if I have that relationship, it just makes certain things, like, let's be honest here. Like this is like somewhat of a negative, like it has negative tones. I'd say about 90 to like Channing Tatum starring in a movie.
Right.
People want to talk about it. Like those aren't the hardest things to go after, but like, so that's why it helps. It, you'd be amazed at the smallest stuff that sets people off, that they want like a photo or like this project mentioned and this one not. Like like when I'm writing things, like when you're able to have that direct line to me, it helps the process and makes the story. Like I always enjoy when like someone who's close to either a movie or talent can give me like how this person like made a certain phone call, or they had to like leave their one production to do a meeting across country on another to get a job. Like that's the juice, like that makes any story better, and people want to talk it more. Where sometimes just Channing in a movie is just it is what it is. So, but it's still like it excites people.
So I've been on the call. Oh, go ahead, Jeff. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, to talk about how things are sort of changing. Yeah. Justin did a story earlier this week on streaming services and the streaming wars, and each of these streaming services is now making 50 series and movies, and so that's 50 more projects that we got to look into. And the streaming companies are operate almost like tech companies. Whether it's Apple Plus, etc., and they can be a little bit trickier to deal with. They want to go by the official press release and all that stuff, and they don't understand, like, as long as we're working it, I can't allow it to get to that point.
Everything is adapting in a way. I've learned, like you bring up, we talk about tech companies when like Netflix gets brought up. Netflix is so much easier to work with now than what they were 4 or 5 years ago. I remember a story once where it was like Triple Frontier first ended up at Netflix. And I remember like someone saying Reed Hastings was calling like major agency heads around time, complaining, acting as if they were giving me the story. I was like, no, I got this from a rival. Like just because like it's amazing Reed thinks that like he sees like some major movie star that their agent called and gave that thing. Most of the time, it comes from a rival agency that told me, and it's still true. Like you can't especially random Netflix stuff that no one has secrecy on. This isn't in Star Wars. Right. So what did they do? They hired publicists that have dealt with us and learned how to work with us, and learned that like it's probably not a good idea to like piss off these reporters or hand stuff to other people, because at the end of the day, they are being probably told the truth, and they're going to run it, and it's going to screw things up. So the sooner we can work with them on this, the better it is for everyone. So there's no surprises, and no one's caught off guard, and we're dealing with that right now with HBO Max, Apple.
It's funny that you brought them up because HBO Max had its big presentation this week, right? And they invited 30 or 40 press. Right. No one from Collider was invited, and to me, like, I understand we're not the New York Times, we're not Vanity Fair over here, but I guarantee you, by HBO Max, you will be dealing with me a lot more than you will be dealing with the New York Times.
That's the other thing too. Is like it is crazy the people I don't want to like step on too many toes, but we talk about screenings sometimes,
right? And not getting invited to screenings. It's like, do you know how much stuff we do?
It's like
the secrets we keep for these companies.
We're not trading news, but at the same time, but you probably should respect us as if we're capable of really like making you have what could be a rough day in a way.
Right,
I have so many news stories that I'm holding until certain things get up. Like I could say so and so is had a meeting and in his talks to do this. I could do that. I could do 8 of those stories right now, and it would probably piss off everyone involved.
The sliver of power we have.
But I'm like, I would like to make sure this gets to the screen. I don't want to blow anything up.
Right.
But like, it's not inaccurate to say so and so had a meeting when they did have a meeting.
Right. Well, let me ask you guys something. How do you guys vet your sources? How do you make sure these are the right sources? Do you take a chance? Is it recommended by other sources? Like, how do you do this?
If they keep giving me right information that like the
you try it out. You don't necessarily run with the first thing.
Oh, of course. Well, here's the thing. Here's the basic is like I'll get like show ends today. I'll go make a phone call, and so will say, said movie star is attached to play the Penguin. Yeah. It's just like it's a role being cast right now. So that's something. Now, what I would do next is like to cover me, I would instantly call the corporate communications person at the studio. And then also probably the person's publicist. Person's publicist is going to say, let the studio handle it because we don't want our hands involved. They can.
If they say that, by the way, it's probably true.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's exactly. No comment is comment sometimes in that case.
Right.
But I would still go like, and those studios are like and then if the studios want to push back, then I keep making more calls. And if more people are like, so-and-so is getting this. If I get 4 people that I trust telling me so-and-so is going to be the Penguin, probably on the right track. The deal may not be done. Negotiations still may be going on. But I bet you they had a meeting, and I bet you both sides are liking each other. Right. So that's how it kind of works. Is the studio, they call it signing off on stuff. In reality, it's fact checking. Yeah. And like if someone they're like, this person is not this person. Like recently, I wrote that Yahya Abdul-Mateen II would be starring in the new Matrix. And I had been told there was a young Morpheus element. And then the studio's like, it's not young Morpheus. I think he's related in some way to Morpheus, whether this thing is in the future, the past. There's some element, but I can't, if I don't know, if they're not going to say what exactly it is, then I have a tough time being like, he'll be doing this.
Right, you're free to speculate.
But that's the case.
But you can speculate within the scoop.
Sure, of course. I mean, people aren't dumb. They see like, an African American who is starring in the movie, and the only person not returning from the original is Lawrence Fishburne. Put 2 and 2 together. But the point is like, at the end of the day, I'm still going through the proper channels to make sure that the source is telling. And if the source is wrong, and here's the thing too, sources hear stuff like someone met and they already passed on something, or everybody gets their information different ways. So like just because someone like had it wrong, it may be wrong right now, but it also could have been right 2 days ago or something like that. Like I've learned pretty quickly who is in the know. I learned pretty quickly what to tell said people. Like that's the other thing too, is you have to realize the people I'm talking to are probably talking to a Jeff or a Boris or Mike Fleming, like in some way. So I always also cage what I tell people, but like, you can also tell when people are not going to BS.
It comes with experience. Yeah. It really does. Like because we've seen a lot of young bloggers, like out there in the blogosphere or whatever, dropping some of these scoops, but they don't have the experience to tell whether something is actually going to make. They're just kind of shooting it out into the dark.
The language too. Right. Like they don't like they say like they think an in talks is in done deal with her. I'm like, well, this guy already passed. Like that's the thing. It's like. I will, like, if you want to say someone's in talks and they're starring, if they already passed, I'm going to correct you and say they passed. And if that, and while you might have been true at one point, still probably doesn't look good that I keep saying how someone has moved on from a project.
I've seen you do that with a particular site. I'm not going to say their name, but you tried to school them and guide them. I remember in your early
I've tried
days
to help a lot of young people out there.
You do, and that's one
Check
of the
my
things.
DMs.
That's one of the things about Jeff Sneider. Like I've seen him do for all the shit he takes. Jeff Sneider does actually try to help people figure things out who are in the game at a young stage, kind of paying it forward.
Fun story, like Kristen Harloff, like when they were, what was the name of their
Schmoes, yeah.
They were breaking things, and like I think we got into it a little bit. And Christian personally reached out and said we want to grab lunch, and we hashed it out, and he explained that he had contacts and this and that, and we had a great relationship going forward. Other people,
That's why I'm here.
They
Me
have this
too.
arrogant sense where it's like, I know as much as you.
Yeah.
I'm in the mall as much as you, and it's like,
Right.
dude, you probably have like a film grid you got from your fucking room. Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
It's okay.
Maybe we should make the sign bigger, Justin. There.
Your roommate. At least I didn't realize what I was doing.
I dropped one yesterday. It's all good.
From your roommate telling you like where it's like, and those grids are like at every agency where it's like saying who's interested in a role.
Yeah.
And a lot of those grids are, it's like it's
outdated.
It's outdated, and they're kind of like BS. So like that's my way.
Let me ask you two final questions. We've got to jump into some live chat questions. I saw them all pouring through here. We're going to pick some. You guys are going to answer some real quick. One, what is the one scoop that got away from you that you wish you'd broken, or angry that you didn't break?
I would say that's a good question. Because I always get asked what my
What your favorite scoop,
ones
yeah.
are. The ones you lose are like do stick with you.
I've seen him melt down for an hour after losing a scoop.
I will Jeremy. I had Jeremy Renner in the Bourne for a while, and that was I remember we were working together. That was a tough day because I remember like losing like the Gangster Squad cast too.
Oh.
Which looking back, that film you don't.
Right.
When films don't work out, you don't care as much about scoops. When they do, it's like, damn, I could have had that one. I was this close about Ben Affleck and Gone Girl, and that one was like a blatant screw over, which sucked.
Was there a superhero one that you had and then someone took it out from under you?
I had one.
Oh yeah, what was that?
Cumberbatch is Strange.
Oh, you had that one.
I came flying into the rap
we were
meeting.
all
I
close
came
on
coming
that
in
one, yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
I was like, I got it, and my computer like was dead, and I would like tried to like, I was like, give me your computer, like grabbing someone else's. I got yelled at in the meeting, and Sharon was all like, you can't come in here
At the
and
rap,
interrupt the meeting that we're having, and I was like, it's Doctor Strange. What are you talking about? This meeting's over.
Well, funny you should say the comic book. I think the one thing he screwed me on was like Fantastic Four. What the interesting thing was is that wasn't even a scoop. I was going to be sharing that with Boris, but they had the final four ready. Like Jamie Bell was like that last guy that was getting it, and I remember. we were going to plan to do it the following morning, and I was in a screening of.
Really? I didn't know that. I did not know this. This is a good
breaking
story.
news! Breaking news!
I think as it was ending, my phone was going off, and I picked up, and the person was like, "Yeah, Jeff is screwing us all over here, and it's gonna go." And next thing I know, it was up. And I posted mine. And the funny thing was, I remember like two guys texting me like, nice, Fantastic Four. Like, that's the best part is when people text me to congratulate me on a News Blast because they don't get Collider's News Blast because Collider doesn't have News Blast. That they're like...
That was the rap, but
The rap. But the point is they thought I actually broke it, and I did. So I'm like sitting there drinking a beer and drowning my sorrows to get over this lost scoop, and I have people congratulate me. But that was like the one time this guy...
As we know, no one was more upset that night than Josh Trank.
What's the one scoop he took from you that you were mad about?
There were too many.
No, really?
Kroll dropped so many Kroll bombs. I'm just like a puddle in the ground.
All right, one last question. Make it quick so we can jump in. Is there one piece of advice you'd give an intrepid young kid who's watching you two, maybe following what you two do, and wants to get into the business?
Let me go first. There are two ways I would say that to break into this game.
Okay.
I honestly think that there's room for someone to come in and do below the line scoops. And because those are getting traffic. Who's the cinematographer on this big movie? Who's the, I think that is an interesting way to do it. And the other way is China. I think that if you could go be the American reporter who everyone in China knows and get yourself access on Weibo or whatever it is, or even reporting on the Chinese industry, you could blow up that way.
Okay.
So.
All right. You got something?
I'd say just be don't just like first, the best thing is to meet as many people as possible and stay in contact with them, and because you never know when that person will have something involved in their career, whether it's a producing job in a movie or a client that's gotten a great role. Like, don't get like so arrogant that you forget about those people, because one day you're going to need them. And also be willing to talk to your competition. Like, I have pretty good relationships with all the people involved. Like, when we're at war, like, there'll be some stuff said, but for the most part, I don't take anything personally. And I think everybody can learn something from your own. Like, if you want to get in the game, talking to us and like picking our brains, what we want to say may change with each thing, but it's never hurts to ask.
Yeah.
And like, as you said, with some of the people that we've talked to on Twitter, it leads to them learning and maybe using that information to help. And competition helps in this game.
And we'll still jab each other, Kroll and I, from time to time, and twist the knife in each other's backs. But there are also things where it's like, hey man, I really care about this one, or I've been on this for 2 months. Can you stand down? We have the kind of relationship where we can do that. I don't necessarily have that with others, but I think it's helpful.
Yeah. All right, well, there you go. You've gotten a window into the Scoops game from two of the best scoop people out there in the business. So thank you both for being open to talk about it. Let's jump into some chat questions real quick. We got a few minutes left in the show. MK Songbird asks, what's the biggest takeaway that you see the studios taking from the box office success of Joker without a China release and the overall growing dependence on international box office?
I haven't seen any lessons yet. I think it's too soon. We have to wait and see what kind of films are being greenlit. Okay. If they start greenlighting $50 or $60 million comic book movies, I think that'll be the proof right there.
Okay.
I would say, it is too early, because we haven't seen like a origin Scorsese type comic book movie get greenlit since the Joker stuff. I do think international still plays a major part. But like, obviously with the recent thing with China and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the China dependency is the one thing that will probably we'll see how that changes over time. But I still think that's what's been the biggest thing in the last 10 years is international play. The studios still have to take that in mind when they're doing these things, because it's just such a big pot of gold to help that move. Like the way it helps Hobbs and Shaw get over and become a major hit, and just still a fringe hit. Those things are still important. So I think we're still a little ways away from changing that. But and studios are always looking to save money, and if they can find ways to make a $50 to $60 million comic book movie, they will. Yeah.
All right. J. Scott Friuli asks, and this is a Scoops question: which insider scoops do you think have had the biggest impacts in ongoing productions, whether positive or negative?
Oh, that's easy. The Me Too stuff.
Okay.
That's the New York that has changed everything. In my mind, on between that trickled down to pay disparity and also it's kind of turning a little bit in just verbal abuse and stuff like that. You've seen people being to me that's not an obvious, because obviously we deal more with cats and stuff like that, but ever since that change is the most dramatic I've seen in the 10 years I've covered this, I would say.
Yeah.
And while I can't point to a specific scoop, I think all the reporting on some of the set safety things and stunt, we're losing too many stunt people in this industry. Yeah. Too many deaths, too many devastating injuries. And so I think that the more that we report and talk about that stuff, the more likely it is to change.
I remember when I was writing for the tracking board, you had me write about that because that was a really personal issue to you about the stunt stuff. And so I wrote about the stunt woman that got killed, I think, on the train. On
Deadpool 2.
Yeah, on Deadpool 2. And so that was an eye-opening thing to write for me. So I appreciated you bringing that up. All right, Riley Jack wants to know, with Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart finding success outside their young adult movies, what other actor from the genre, YA genre, do you think is underrated? I say Josh Hutcherson is more than Pete Peta, or Peta, whatever that character is. Do you guys have a young an actor in the young adult movies you think that can make the jump like Pattinson did, like Kristen Stewart have done?
Oh, and I think Noah Jupe from Ford vs Ferrari, Quiet Place. He's Honey Boy was he in as well? I think he's going to be the guy to keep an eye on. And then I don't know his name, Jojo Rabbit Star.
Oh yeah,
both those kids.
Both those kids
were fantastic. I think they have a shot. But keep an eye on Noah. I feel especially after Ford vs Ferrari comes out. I think he's going to have a very bright career.
What about you, Jeff? You always trying to find these diamonds in the rough?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Finn Wolfhard like gets away from the Stranger Things stuff and actually evolves into maybe like an Ezra Miller type of actor. I don't know.
Sure.
It's still maybe a little too
Ghostbusters
early
would be
to say.
interesting, but that kind of isn't getting away because it goes.
Yeah,
the new
no, it's
Ghostbusters
not.
feels like Stranger Things.
He's basically playing the same character over and over. But I do wonder if Finn Wolfhard will be the Stranger Things actor.
Yeah.
Just sort of have a career beyond. Being
Could
a
he
teenager.
be the next Michael Cera, the next Jesse Eisenberg, that kind of thing, kind of slide into that?
Yeah,
Don't you think?
I think it's possible.
Yeah, as those guys get older, those slots open up for him to slide in and play those younger, geekier characters.
I mean, the thing is everybody forgets he was in Goldfinch and that
right. That
that
didn't.
bombed. So
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
it did. He probably thought that was a way to branch out from Stranger Things.
We got another question here because you guys have made fun of the Bee Gees things. Riley, Jack, what artist's music do you think could be made into an original movie in the vein of Mamma Mia?
Well, I think the Prince thing that they're doing, actual, I think that thing could be a monster.
Is there another one? Could you go back to Elvis? Could you do with Elvis again? Like we haven't had an Elvis movie in a while. Do you
We're
think an
getting
Elvis
one.
We're
song-
getting one
getting
from
one.
Boston, but that's going to be
Right.
a biopic and not like just
Right.
using the music. I'm trying to.
Because yesterday did a great job with the Beatles, I thought.
That's a good one. I'm a Rolling Stones. I would say that music transcends. I feel people know that stuff when it comes out.
But you're not talking about a biopic. You're talking about a movie
where the,
like
where the
Mamma Mia?
library, where the library
Yeah.
is like
I
tells
see.
a story, and I think
Could work.
yesterday's a weird one because they still the Beatles is so front and center. Where Mamma
Right.
Mia, they weren't talking about ABBA.
Right,
ABBA. I think Rolling Stones, and I think Bruce Springsteen. They're doing that. I guess they
yeah,
did
we
that
did it
with
with Blinded by the Light, yeah.
that was a good one. U2, I feel like they're like those,
U2 would
That's
be
a
good.
great
yeah,
choice.
I think
Yeah.
U2 would be up there. So yeah, those types where it's like these people are still like
Right.
touring in a way, and they're still like in the mainstream. Like my cousins know who the Rolling Stones and U2 are because they're still.
But I do want a Metallica biopic.
That's
Because
a good one.
I think yeah. I
The
think
documentary wasn't enough? You'd
No,
want
they've been through a lot. That band.
Yeah. So were the Bee Gees, damn it. Do some research. All right, one last question here. This is from Jonathan Peck. In honor of my hometown Washington Nationals, same here, winning the World Series, what is the best baseball movie in your opinion? We're all sports guys, so what is the best baseball movie?
Baseball movie.
And baseball has to be played
Moneyball.
in the
Moneyball.
movie. What?
Moneyball.
All right, Moneyball.
That's really easy for me.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
the other ones are so boring.
I'm gonna go Major League.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love Major League.
Listen, Major League is so tempting. Oh, there you go. All right, Jeff. You're breaking the scoop, breaking chairs. I would say for me, it's the Natural. It's still my favorite baseball movie. Because it's nostalgic and it's Robert Redford.
It's a slow burn like the game.
It is.
So
Barry Levinson. It's fantastic stuff. I know. I'm glad you guys didn't say Field of Dreams. I will always contend that's not a baseball movie. That's a movie about baseball. It's not a baseball.
It's a father-son film.
It's a father-son story that connected through baseball. It's not necessarily a baseball movie. So I'll probably get pushed back on that. All right. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching this live episode of Collider Movie Talk. Can't thank you enough. Once again, go give Perry Nemiroff some love. She's out there about to run the New York City Marathon. You know she's going to need all the help and support she can get. So send her some kind words there on social media. And I want to thank all of you for sending your live chat questions in. Definitely want to give a big thanks to Justin Kroll. Thanks for stopping by, brother, man. Where can people find everything you're doing and follow your scoops and stuff?
Kroll J Var on Twitter, and I'm Variety.com for all like the stories I post there as well.
There you go. There you go. Read his stuff, and you'll learn a lot. Jeff Sneider, where can they find you?
At the Sneider on all platforms.
And don't you have a podcast today?
We got a podcast coming up, the Sneider Cut. Who knows if there will be a guest, but there will be news.
There you go. And today I dropped the Deep Cut with Alex Wolff. He's on. We talked about an hour about his film, The Cat and the Moon, which is a fantastic debut film from him as a debut director. It really, I can't tell you how much I enjoy it. And then we get into jazz. We get into how Rihanna putting his hand through his hair changed his life. Trust me, we get into that story, which is really funny. So you can find that on the Collider Conversations feed now. But anyway, this has been Collider Movie Talk. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll be back on Monday with another live episode of Collider Movie Talk there for you to enjoy. Have a great rest of your weekend. Don't forget Collider Mailbag on Saturday and Sunday. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.